all know, this session has been about the future of mobile. This whole morning's track is about the future of mobile. We couldn't discuss that without discussing one more topic. And that's why we're going to have to stay for one more session and have one more awesome panel discussing the future of HTML5. Please welcome the panelists as I call them out. This panel is moderated by Edith Young, partner of Wright Ventures. Please give her a hand. Fabrizio Bloisi, founder and CEO of Movil. David Deghan, chief architect, Dolphin. Please keep the applause up. Jay Sullivan, vice president of products at Mozilla. And Andre Charlin, director of engineering at PhoneGap at Adobe. Thank you all for being with us today.
I love the grand entrance. You're like rock star. So thank you, everyone, for still staying here on your seats, because I know that we are between you and lunch, and we completely understand that. But I will promise this will be one of the most exciting panel for the 2 days of conference. So you get your money worth just by hanging out with us for another 30 minutes.
So ballet, singing, bossa nova singing.
Of course,
what
and
are
we have.
going to do?
So before I start and introduce like our amazing, fabulous panel speaker today, I actually want to have a quick show of hand to get to know you guys a little bit better. How many of you, and I can see, how many of you are actually developer? Okay, about 1/3. How many of you are entrepreneur? How many of you are investors? Okay, okay. Watch the investor. They're there. Find them later. So great. So at least we know who are here. And today we're very excited to have like some amazing speaker. We start with Fabrizio Bloisi.
Bloisi, almost.
Founder of Movil. And Movil is one of the largest mobile publishing platform in Latin America with over 15 million user per month. That's amazing. Let's give him a great show of hands. Thank you. And Fabrizio also traveled from Brazil yesterday. So thank you so much for coming, and you can sing for us later.
I'm going to talk about Olympics and World Cup here today. That's my team.
That's right. Not HTML5. And next we have David Deghan. David is the chief architect of Dolphin browser, which is the highest performing mobile browser, HTML5 browser today, with over 50 million installed worldwide. So let's give him a big
Thank you, thank you.
applause. Next, we have Andrew Levy, founder and CEO of Criticism. And you guys are the world's first and largest APM provider and running on over 250 million devices. Is that correct?
Yeah, mobile APM provider.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. And last but not least, let's give him a big hand. Last but not least, we have Jay Sullivan. Jay runs product for Mozilla, which is the creator of Firefox. And obviously, Mozilla play a really important role to define the HTML5 standard. And you guys have 500 million users worldwide. Wow. Yeah, let's give. That's a lot of users. All right. So why are you guys here? And why are you guys on this stage? And why HTML5 is so important to you guys in the company?
Can I start?
Of course.
Good afternoon, everyone. We at Movil started more or less 1.5 years ago a project called Zui that was a HTML5 app store. And a pure HTML5 app store. And it grew a lot substantially. We got to have 5 to 10 million users in this 1.5 years. And lately, around 7-8 months ago, we launched a mobile TV, like a mobile Netflix, totally based on HTML5 in Latin America, in Brazil, and Latin America. And we got fantastic results. We have today more or less 1 million paying users, subscribers in this product. And HTML5 was critical to this growth and to this product being a success that it is. And the reasons, just being very brief, is that the point is not the HTML5 itself, but that we really we are able to create value from HTML5, to offer more simple services, to A/B tests much more, to partner with carriers, because with HTML5 I can distribute without using Apple or Google stores and be much more flexible. So we do not charge for data, so the user can use just pay like $5 and have free data. So we discovered a formula to really make HTML5 effective for the user and we got a great success, a great growth over the last year.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
Great. Actually, for us, HTML5 is critically important for Dolphin browser. As you know, Dolphin browser is a browser for Android and iPhone, and we have over 50 million installs. And over the past year, we have dedicated significant amount of development resources. About 50 of our engineers have been working for a year to make sure that our support for HTML5 is #1 between all the other browsers. And we have dedicated a lot of effort to make sure that we support the standard, we participate in the standards body in a core mob W3C, and we have the best implementation. We try to have the best implementation. In fact, we have the best implementation of HTML5 between all the other browsers. The other thing is that we truly believe that HTML5 is the thing that is going to level the playing field and make the ecosystem more consistent and bring a bunch of content and applications to a whole set of users that are not going to be based on PC. These are only mobile users, and right now they're cut off from the amazing content that they could see on internet, and we believe that HTML5 could enable them to access this content. And for us, it's critically important. We get up every day, and we're super passionate about solving this problem and bringing this content to the users.
Thank you, David. Andrew, how's HTML5 related to a mobile APM?
Yeah, so traditionally we've been on supporting iOS and Android. Our mission is to help developers really make good apps great, and HTML5 is just another platform that we want to support and have just started supporting. In addition to that, we also work with a lot of third-party frameworks like the PhoneGaps, the accelerators of the world, to help HTML5 developers there as well. And a lot of the same problems, and I'm sure we'll get into an argument about this later, I think a lot of the same problems that developers have making native apps is similar in the HTML5 world, and that's where we come in, because we thrive on helping developers deal with issues like fragmentation and performance issues.
Thank you, Andrew. Jay?
Yeah, so Mozilla exists to support end-user choice and developer innovation. And back in the day on the desktop, when IE had like 97% market share, the web as a platform was not really moving forward. So Mozilla dove in and helped lead the development of web standards that has created the innovations we have today by moving the capabilities of the web platform forward. And that's been successful. We have choice and competition, and the stuff you can do on the web today you wouldn't have imagined when we started in 2004 with Firefox. So now that everybody's shifting to mobile, we feel we need to play a role in doing the same thing in mobile, which is addressing the gaps in capability by implementing software and then driving those standards into the standards bodies and getting them implemented in other browsers as well. So, our expectation is that Mozilla will continue to play a key role in the addition of new web standards to give you developers the access to all the capabilities of a mobile device.
Yeah, and on that note, maybe start with Jay as well. What are some of the things that Mozilla have done so far in terms of HTML5?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pieces to this. So I think at the core is making JavaScript really fast, right? Without that, you're not going to be able to do a lot of things you want to do. So among Mozilla and Chrome and others, we've really been competing to make JavaScript faster and faster. And the other piece that's really important is exposing the capabilities of the device. So an example of that is, back in 2008 in Firefox 3, we implemented the first support for geolocation in the browser. That became a web standard. So you can make one API call, the user gets to choose, then you get your location. And with our Firefox OS project, which is a new project to build an entire stack that's only HTML and JavaScript and CSS, we've been exposing many of the rest of the capabilities of a device. The test case being if you can build the entire phone with it, you have access to telephony, to SMS, to accelerometer, to camera. So we're implementing those standards in Firefox OS because Gecko is not forked like WebKit. Those are all going into Gecko, and then those are going into the standards bodies where WebKit and others will fast follow.
Thanks, Jay. And Andrew?
Yeah, so I think, so with regards to the standards, they've definitely been pushing the edge, and the way that, what I can bring to the table is that we talk with a lot of developers and hear their concerns, and a lot of, I guess there's the engineering perspective, which is
some of the main concerns are performance, security, and fragmentation of device-specific APIs. And then there's a business perspective about monetization that we'll talk about later. But the real issue is that so they're pushing the edge, but not everyone else is pushing the edge. And to really build an app that shines and takes advantage of the device, you need access to those APIs. One of our customers, Netflix, 2 years ago had a blog post about why they don't support HTML5 video. And if you read it today, it's basically a lot of the points still hold true. So I think a lot of times people are easy to dismiss the standards committees because the browsers are pushing the boundaries, but at the same time there is a place for them to solve issues like this.
David.
You know that one of the key impediments to HTML5 adoption is device fragmentation and browser fragmentation. And it's a chicken and egg problem. The content providers don't want to target specific browsers or specific devices because they're individually have a small shares. And the device manufacturers or the browsers don't want to fully adopt HTML5 because they don't see enough content providers actually producing content providers. So in Dolphin, we're trying to solve this chicken and egg problem with making more eggs. We basically are trying to we aggregate all of the users that we have, and we push the innovation that we have built on top of in our browser in full support of HTML5 that we have. We push it all the way down to Android 2.2 version. And we aggregate all of these users under the same support umbrella and make the user base big enough that can be targeted by content providers. And we're working with core content providers, Facebook, Zynga, Twitter, to make sure that they are aware of the capabilities that this user base has and make sure that they provide content that really makes HTML5 come alive and make it good enough so that they would actually bring the level of innovation all the way to the user.
How about from a content side as a publishing platform?
We are doing real products for real users and doing real monetization on HTML5. The big thing I think I can contribute to you today is to stop discussing this as like a technology discussion, because the user really don't care, or actually they don't understand what is this discussion. The point is that what you can do better. Why is it better? Is it better, the first question? And we at Movil, we discovered some deliveries that we can do on HTML5 that was not possible without it. So saying some things. The development cycle, for example, native apps are expensive, long, and you have to submit and wait for weeks for have an approval and then launch and get a feedback and then submit again 2 weeks later. That's not how we do web. You do web doing A/B testing, putting on 3 versions and changing the best version at the end of the day. That's how we manage our HTML5 products. We really push it, and we see during the day what's doing best. The second big thing, we are in Brazil and Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela. Their credit card penetration is much lower than here. So for us, HTML5 was the path to avoiding charging on credit card on smartphones. Because I'm not tied to Google and Apple, their stores, but I can partner with local carriers and push to we can charge 6 billion people on carrier billing in the world. And it really got good results, because for the user it was simpler, and that's the point. Be simpler. You can have access in Latin America. If you are a boy, you simply don't have a credit card to buy items. So the point is how we can use HTML5 to deliver better products, and I think we are succeeding in some aspects of this.
Yeah, and it actually sounds like you guys, in some way, to me, maybe even a little bit more advanced in terms of, you said, because you really solved the billing problem, which is payment is a big, very important thing. What else do you think that, things that need to happen before HTML5, this whole ecosystem will really build out? Because you talk to the local developers, they couldn't figure it out. It takes time to figure it out. Some of the individual developers have done it, like yourself. But what else you think that we need to?
Good, great question. I don't believe in the competition, the HTML5 guy, that's me, against the native guy, that is that guy here in the first row. in the first line. I don't believe in it. We have tools, so you are the native guy. Okay, I don't believe in this competition. I believe that we have different tools for different objectives. In Latin America, carrier billing was extremely important, and we really used it to grow faster, to deliver more products to more users. And I think we are now launching for Hispanic users here in the US, and maybe here in the US we have a different billing situation for many users. So the big point is not native versus HTML5, but how you deliver better products. Talking about the future you asked, to me, in the long term, we are going to use a lot of web apps and HTML5. But we should not say this is the only and best solution today. That's what Facebook told here today. Probably you all saw that Gartner nice chart about the hype cycle. Everyone at first say this is a new technology is going to solve the world this quarter. Then 6 months later, everyone says it's a disaster. I think now we are starting to see the HTML5 growing slowly from now.
Okay. So other than payment, what else needs to happen, guys?
So I think that there are a number of things that would need to happen to make HTML5 really take off and get on the hockey stick growth path. One is from hardware perspective, like in the next few years, hopefully we will see 4 cores or 8 cores hardware with GPU acceleration. And we can see operating system takes really full advantage of distributing the load so that all the cores are working and really that powerful hardware shines up. The network needs to be better. Like as we move off of 1G and 2G into 3 and 4G, applications will become richer. Video and content will be able to deliver that. And that will drive adoption of HTML5 because that's the only way that you can reach so many devices. The other one is that we really need to solve the device fragmentation problem. And this is a responsibility that we take personally on our end and Dolphin Browser to make sure that we make all the devices consistent. We don't leave off a bunch of our users and orphan them. Like on desktop, all IE6 browsers are orphaned. And forever, developers have to make exceptions for if you're IE6 users, I'm going to do this. If not, I'm going to do something else. And that just raises the cost of supporting and creating and innovating on top of HTML5. So if we solve, the hardware is going to be solved, there are other people working on it. There's an ecosystem for that. We're going to solve the fragmentation problem together with other browser and standards body. And payment and bandwidth, all of these are going to merge, and very soon we should see the growth that we expected out of HTML5.
And Andrew?
Yeah, so I agree that I think devices will close the performance gap. And there's a study a performance test by Spaceport that showed 6 to 10x, even the highest end mobile devices were 6 to 10 times slower than their browser counterparts. But again, I think that gap will be closed in the future, and especially with how Firefox OS is bringing the hardware and the browser closer together. I think a big issue for developers is monetization and discoverability of their apps. Yeah. And it's great that HTML5 can enable you to distribute these apps. Billing is definitely an issue. That's why Apple's done so well. They have so many credit cards, and people predict the same for the Kindle. But it's not clear. I mean, you can look at carrier billing as the answer for HTML5, but some of them are charging, I mean, these guys know a little bit better, but upwards of 40% rates to do that. So I think the carriers need to work together on that a little bit with the browser vendors. And I think once those things come together, HTML5 will have a brighter future. And I also agree that you have to really choose the right tool for the job. So you can't do everything with it today, and I think that's what's important to keep in mind.
Yeah, if all the users are using it, of course all the developer will develop for it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some talk here about what should we wait for, and my argument is that you shouldn't wait. So if for most apps, it's kind of 80-20 rule. We're not all the way there on like high-end 3D games, but for most apps today, if you start developing with HTML today, wrap it, take a web view, wrap it up for native for iOS so you can get in the store, wrap it up for Android so you can get in the store, and then also have a great HTML5 presence. So, because what's going to happen is as alternative mechanisms start to sprout up, like Fabrizio was talking about, where you can directly get to the HTML5 app and it'll monetize. Apple won't take its 30% cut. You can iterate in real time because it's the web. You don't have to ask permission to do A/B testing, right? You can't even do that in iOS. So I think if you start today for most apps, then you'll have the experience with HTML5 and you'll go through the initial learning curve, which is small for most of you because everybody knows how to develop for the web already. You don't have to learn anything new. Then you'll be ready for a situation where you can do much of your app in the web, wrap it up for where it needs to be wrapped up, but leave it alone as HTML where it can run on Firefox OS or in a third-party app store or on Chrome OS or within the Chrome store, within the Mozilla market. So I actually don't think you should be waiting in most cases.
Got it. And on that note, Mozilla in some ways been around the longest and definitely one of the big guys. What do you guys think in terms of Google and Apple? Like, I think they're sort of scared and afraid of this whole HTML5 movement. What do you think?
I don't know if they're afraid, but I think they have an inherent conflict in that if a robust open ecosystem sprouts up where a user can get content they want without having to go through that store, then they're a little bit conflicted, right? Because the success of the web would naturally take away from the gatekeeper model and the revenue capture model. We went through this when we went from AOL to the web, right? So I'm not saying they're scared, but there is certainly an inherent conflict between capturing that and letting openness thrive.
This is the time you guys need to debate.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be very hard for them to resist. It's a wave. HTML5 is wave coming, and to put up yourself as a barrier, people will find paths of getting around it. And if they don't fully support it, an alternative ecosystem would quickly evolve, and it will make it very difficult for them to come back and monetize it. So probably soon they will figure out a way of providing a mechanism for developers to distribute HTML5 apps through their platform and taking market share of that. And then, but the old way of having Apple and Google really control the ecosystem, and it's probably going to end sometimes in the future because there will be all these alternative paths and alternative app stores and app discovery. They will not be the gatekeeper of app discovery.
Right.
So it will happen.
It's something that, Fabrizio, you already started doing with the carrier anyway, right?
Sure, we have alternative app stores based on HTML5, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, and there's one thing like we sort of didn't mention. Facebook also play a really important role, and I think that sort of there's Core Mob, which Firefox, Mozilla is really part of, and a lot of time they actually didn't. Mark Zuckerberg said something about it was a big mistake for them, but what the media didn't really quote, which is the second part of his talk was, for Facebook they have the traffic to the mobile web version of Facebook is double of the iOS and Android app combined, and it's huge. So what do you guys think in terms of Facebook and what what their role play?
Yeah, I mean, I think Von Smith on stage this morning was pretty clear about it. For some of the things that they wanted to do, they probably did start a little early, and they were under pressure to get the user experience up to par on iOS and Android, so they did what they had to do. But I think in the long term, they believe in HTML5, as do we, and they're still active in the ring mark benchmarks, and they're really good at driving requirements because they really need amazing performance, and they're infinitely scrollable lists that are grabbing images everywhere. Like, they have needs that help us do a better job at evolving the web platform.
And I think just one thing people typically forget is that, yeah, feature phones still exist. Fabrizio has built a huge business on them, and that is a way that people access the web. And the other part of it is Facebook content. So a lot of content shared throughout the web, and a lot of those inbound links don't necessarily pop up the Facebook app. And so you're going to see, just by how big the Facebook platform is, you're going to see a lot of mobile traffic going to their website.
Make a comment. There are only 100 featured apps, or maybe 200 in each app store. And there are 600,000 apps. So Facebook's role is critical to enable social discovery of apps. And it's critical for HTML5 too, because we are going to find good apps or good content because your friends like it, because your community like it. And I think Facebook was clear. They really believe in it. It will take 1-2 years before it got really mainstream.
And for Facebook, they really have no other choice but like fully support HTML5. When you have 1 billion customers, you can't build your own phone and expect it to take over the world and be the only platform that you would support. They really need to be there for all different kinds of form, different platform, and for them to dedicate resources to build all these separate native apps, it's going to be increasingly difficult. As you know, on Android, there's not just one Android. There is every OEM at every device has a different different version of Android. There are over 4,000 ROMs that have fragmented the Android space. So creating an application, which Facebook is struggling to, and porting it over to all Android devices is an insurmountable challenge right now. And they will be forced by leaving off portion of those users. And those users will come back again to their website in their HTML5 website. So HTML5 is the only way that they can reach everyone, and they can A/B test, they can customize their experience for everyone. So they will push very, very hard on that, and that will be great for the rest of the world as well.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the final question, final thoughts. A year from now, Fabrizio, start with you. What do you think HTML5, the whole ecosystem, will look like?
A year from now, I think, and that's my suggestion for most of you, to use the hybrid solution that is using some kind of wrapper like PhoneGap, etc., and HTML5 inside of this. You are going to have faster apps, and you are going to develop it faster, cheaper, and I think this is going to be a very important way to go to develop apps. Probably we are going to have more tools to help develop the apps, so I think this is the year for now. Looking a little further, maybe 2-3 years from now, I think even pure HTML5 apps or integrated with the big app stores is going to be the mainstream. So I think that you have to keep an eye and start investing in this direction.
In a year, I predict Facebook will be back building an HTML5 app, and maybe they would say the second biggest mistake that they made was switching to native. But if it doesn't happen in 1 year, it will happen in 2 years, in 3 years maximum. The world is going that way. It is the only way that you can deliver super customized, A/B tested experience to your individual users. The phone hardware and surface is too small, and we are all innovating and adding more features. And if you have to show every button on your phone and every feature, you have to ship it and deliver it to everyone, it's going to be an office experience jammed into a very small surface. So to make that customizable and personalizable and relevant, that's the only way that you can do that is by delivering content through HTML, through optimization, and doing A/B testing on it.
And Andrew?
So unfortunately, I think HTML5 will be in a similar position today, a year from now. I think there'll still be heavy native development. There's some big question marks, I think, still that need to be answered with HTML5, especially around security. If you're going to build an app to succeed using the contacts, the calendar of your phone, the dialing out numbers, these things can be solved perhaps with combining or making the browser the OS, but then again, you need great content and great apps and great developers building specifically for that. So even though it's HTML5 that developers would be building, it would still look like a native app because you'd have to account for whatever capabilities that platform presented. I mean, something we didn't even mention is you can build Windows 8 apps using HTML and JavaScript. But when you actually go through and customize it, there's a lot of Microsoft-specific stuff that you need to add in there to make it work.
Yeah, when we started, the epitome of your experience was a page with blue links and maybe a blink tag here and there. And I think in the next year, just like it has happened in every previous year, the web will exceed our expectations for what it can do. We didn't think we would do the things today that we're doing on the web, and I think there's no reason, technically or business-wise, that mobile will not follow the same path.
Thank you, Jay. And with that, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And let's give these guys a big round of applause. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to our panelists, and thanks to all of you for sticking with us. That does conclude our morning session. That was the Future of Mobile session on the main stage.